It's wild to think about. This little piece of cardboard, it can be worth more than a brand new car. It's a global obsession, and it all starts with just a simple sketch. But how? How does that art turn into the treasure you're hoping to find in your next booster pack? Well, let's find out.
So get this. Every single card, I don't care if it's a common Bidoof or that legendary Charizard everyone wants, it doesn't start in some giant factory. Nope, it starts its life right here, as a little spark of imagination in an artist's sketchbook in Tokyo.
But, that quiet, artsy beginning, that's just step one. It very quickly gives way to this industrial process on a scale that's, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. We're talking about machines the size of buildings printing billions and billions of cards a year.
So the big question is, how does one become the other? How does that initial idea, that sketch, transform into the perfectly cut holographic treasure that you're hoping to pull from a pack?
So that's what we're going to do. We are going to follow the entire journey of a Pokémon card, from the artist's desk all the way to a collector's binder.
All right, let's kick things off. Section 1, From Idea to Icon. Our journey begins fittingly at the place where every single card is born, inside the creative powerhouse behind the whole Pokémon trading card game.
And that place is Creatures Inc., right in Tokyo. You can think of them as the architects of the entire game. Every attack, every ability, and every single piece of art, it all starts right there, inside those walls.
In creating a new set of cards, it is a massive undertaking. Seriously, it involves over 70 different illustrators, whole teams of game designers, and strategists whose job it is to make sure the cards line up with the video games and the anime. From that first concept to the final approval, the whole process can take up to a full year.
Okay, so now we're moving on to Section 2, Surviving the Gauntlet. Because having great art and a cool design, that's really only half the battle. Before even one card gets printed, it has to prove it's worthy. And it does that by surviving what is basically a brutal trial by fire.
See, it's not enough for a card to just look good. It has to be balanced. And to make sure of that, every new design is pushed to its absolute breaking point limits.
And they have a name for this trial. They call it the Play Testing Gauntlet. Inside Creatures Inc., you've got expert players using prototype decks, running them through these really carefully constructed simulations. What are they looking for? They're looking for any way to break the game. If a card is too weak, or way too powerful, or just not fun to play, it's either reworked from the ground up, or it gets scrapped completely.
And let me tell you, the ideas that get thrown out are just fascinating. Some leaked test cards have revealed abilities that were just way too powerful for the game. We're talking about instant win conditions, infinite damage loops, and abilities that could literally rewrite the rules of the game mid-match. These cards exist, but they were so broken, they could never, ever see the light of day.
So once a card design actually survives that gauntlet and gets the final okay from Creatures Inc., the Pokémon Company, and Nintendo, well then it graduates to the next stage. And this is where we enter the massive world of industrial printing.
Take a look at this number. $8.5 million. That's the price tag for a single one of the massive printing presses that make these cards. And these aren't small machines. They stretch over 120 feet long. And that multi-million-dollar press, it prints these enormous sheets, and each one has exactly 121 cards laid out in a perfect 11 by 11 grid.
Now this is where the scale just gets staggering. In just the peak year of 2023, almost 12 billion Pokémon cards were printed worldwide. Let that sink in. That's over 32 million cards every single day. If you laid them end to end, that's enough to circle the entire Earth more than 26 times. Just wow.
Have you ever wondered how they make those shiny holographic cards? The ones everyone wants. Well, it's this really cool technique called cold foil stamping. So first, a super thin layer of metallic foil gets applied to the whole sheet. Then, the ink is printed right on top of it. After that, the sheet passes under these powerful UV lights to cure everything. And when it comes out, bam! You get that iconic glimmer that collectors go crazy for.
All right, Section 4, Perfection and Packaging. So printing billions of cards is one heck of a challenge, right? But making sure every single one is perfect, that's the next critical phase. After printing, those huge sheets are fed into these high-speed machines that cut them up into individual cards. But here's the thing. Even with all this incredible, precise technology, mistakes can still happen. We're talking about a tiny misalignment, maybe just 0.5 millimeter, but that can create something totally unique.
So you have quality control teams and these advanced imaging systems constantly scanning for these tiny imperfections. Things like off-center borders, little ink bleeds, maybe some smudges on that foil layer. And for the most part, any flawed cards are immediately pulled and destroyed.
But sometimes a few of these error cards manage to slip through the cracks. And for collectors, oh man, these mistakes can become legendary. Some of them can fetch hundreds, even thousands of dollars, not despite their imperfections, but because of them.
So the cards that do pass the test are sorted by rarity and then machine assembled into booster packs. And it's not random. Each pack is actually carefully put together to have a specific mix of common and uncommon cards. And it always has a guaranteed slot for at least one rare card, or if you're really lucky, something way, way better.
And with that, we're on to our final section, the global hunt. Once those cards are sealed up in their tamper-proof foil packs, their journey is almost done. They get shipped out to over 90 countries around the world. And that's where the final and, let's be honest, most exciting chapter begins, the global hunt.
And this hunt, it has a code. If you look at the bottom of any card, you'll find a little symbol. A circle, that means it's common. A diamond means it's uncommon, and a star, that's your rare card. It's basically the secret language of every collector.
But okay, what about the really legendary cards? The rainbow rares, the full arts, you know the ones. Well, the odds of pulling one of those top-tier secret rares, on average, it's about 1 in every 70 packs. And that thrill of the chase, that slim possibility is exactly what keeps people collecting.
And at the absolute peak of that hunt is this number. Over $5 million. That is the record-breaking price that was paid for the holy grail of Pokémon cards, the Illustrator Pikachu. It's so unbelievably rare because it was only given out as a prize in an art contest way back in 1998.
So in the world of Pokémon, it's true. Every card really does have a story. The next time you hold one, just think about its insane journey. A journey that started as an idea in an artist's mind in Tokyo, moved through a massive factory, and finally ended up in the hands of a collector, maybe you, on the other side of the world.
It's just so much more than a game, isn't it? Each card is a tiny piece of this much bigger adventure, one that connects designers and engineers and collectors all across the globe. So the only question left to ask is, what story will you find in your next pack?